The first thing really I want to talk about is that the music team itself is a group of other Christians together, and I guess that's the first and foremost thing. You want to make sure that your own personal walk with God is actually there. It doesn't need to be like great, or it doesn't have to be bad or whatever, but you do need to have that heart to serve God, and you do need to be Christian. And so it's really great that both of you are in that place. But what that also means is everybody else is in the same place, and that we all keep an eye out for each other. I think that's important, because musicians can be a really fickle bunch, and sometimes I know that you can have arguments, or you might think, oh, this is not quite right, and I think it's really overriding that we try and stay together and work it out just for the sake of the gospel, and just to make sure that we present a united front, especially because we're in front of people. But also, if we are feeling a little bit down and we're not doing so well, we can encourage each other. And it's part of our role to look out for each other too, and for them to also look out for us. It's music leaders' role, but also each one of us should be doing that.
Yeah, like we're Christians before we're musicians in terms of when we're serving in a team, and that's why like we don't just let people who aren't Christian also join the team, because I guess the point of it is that we should help people to glorify God, but then if you don't even know God, then you can't really do that or encourage other people to do that either.
Yeah, and we're going to do an exercise shortly which sort of illustrates that. It also illustrates how the rest of the instruments fit together. Okay, did you go to one of the earlier music workshops with...
the one with Trevor Hodge came.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh, you're both there. Okay. So if we go through the same stuff, we just move on. But I remember during the church camp, one of the things which really hit me was who was the guy doing the talk?
Ray Tucker.
Mike Rader.
Yeah, I was
And he gave a...
Oh yeah, we heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he basically said, why do we sing music? Why do we play music? Why is it so important in a church setting that we actually do that? Why don't we just read the Bible, or the guy at the front just stand and preach to us, like does happen in some churches, I guess? And I think the reason why he gave us was, well, as an activity, can you think of a childhood song that you had, that you've heard of?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing.
That's a perfect song. You know those words, and it's something that you can remember. And it's because it's been set to music. It's got that rhyme, it's got that rhythm. It's a great way of just remembering Scripture and just to encourage each other. It's also something in our hearts that God's put in our hearts. And that's the reason why sometimes it's easier to remember, say, a song, especially, say, a Christian song. I might be able to say the whole verse out, but I wouldn't be able to remember a whole big Bible passage out. And the one that sticks in my mind is that Philippians 2:9. So, therefore God exalted him to the highest place. The one we sang today, I think, is it?
Yeah.
That one really sticks in my mind. And I can remember that really well. And even when I'm reading the Bible, I'm sort of singing it in my head. It's strange.
Just pops into your mind.
Next thing I'm going to talk about is basically, when we get down to the sort of keyboard side of things, what to play. So the instrument ranges and why a keyboard is plays an important role in filling in all those gaps. So the keyboard has a really great range. So you've got down from bottom all the way up to the top. And like this is we might be able to get some music. Need power. It's a power cord somewhere. There we go. Now I've got this picture here. This comes from a mixer manual, believe it or not. Just from the mixers. Yeah. What the black bars really, you only need to worry about the black bars. The grey bars are the sort of total range of the instruments, including all the harmonics. But the black bars are the actual notes that they can play. So the first one's a cymbal. The second one, and of course the biggest one, is the piano. What you notice, the piano's range extends past every other instrument, and this is just a pictorial way of showing that. So you've got 20 hertz down here, that's the lowest notes down here, and your highest notes is up here past there, at the limit of human hearing. Now the real question is, from this, where does a vocal person, where in this range, does anybody know what frequencies a person can sing in? And a person sings in between 300 and about 4K. So around about this zone here. So basically the top half of the piano, probably from C to C, is G down to C, is the range of a person's ability to sing. And I guess what that means is it's really important to know that if you're on the piano, you can play the same notes as any of the other instruments there. So it's very important to always be listening to make sure you're not trying to play the same notes. Because if you play two notes together that are very like the same note on two different instruments, it's really easy to tell if they're out of tune. You can hear this beating sound, and it actually sounds really terrible. So you try to avoid where the other instruments are. But what that also means, you've got the additional benefit, the additional role of being a piano player. If some other instrument's not there, it kind of becomes your de facto role to fill in that other instrument's part, to make sure that you have that whole range. And the more you've got, the more notes you're playing across, the fuller it sounds. Or you might want to cut back and make it less, depending on the feel of the song.
Can you give a quick example?
Depending on what the song leader wants. Probably. Do you want to? Oh, I was thinking maybe we can just do the exercise instead.
Oh, sure.
The activity. So.
Oh, but as in it's good to know in theory, but then to hear it, what's the difference? Like if you were filling in for another instrument, what would you do differently?
Yeah. I guess it depends what the other instrument's really doing. But say if you had a full band, a full orchestra there, or okay, let's call it a band because it really is a band. If you had the whole band there, you might pick a very, very small amount of notes to play. Literally, you might stick with 2 notes. So you could stick with that almost all the way through.
Whilst everyone else is doing their thing, and you would still be playing a part.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you actually got the MP3 that I sent to you, did you ever listen to that?
Yeah.
The third verse, which was in E major, I stuck with just this one. So that was literally, I was only ever playing those sort of 3 notes. I don't know whether you noticed it, because the guitar was also on top and there was also singing on top, and it sounded a lot fuller than it is. But that's a sort of ability to limit yourself down to those little bits when you've got the full band there. And that was only keyboard and guitar and singing. There's only on one single voice, and you're already limited down to a very small point. That's a sort of area you can get down to. But what I was going to do next is this exercise here. Now, I was going to try and find a place. Yeah, we can just check that out. Sophie's going to do this bit, because I don't actually quite know the full answers to it when it gets down to the nitty-gritty.
Oh, well, why don't you guys work on it first? Yeah.
It's very similar. See if you can remember.
So we'll put them in the order of most important to the least important members of. Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Band.
Very good. And the reason why is because I ran out of names.
Oh.
No, but you're right. Really, God is up the top.
Yeah, God. Yeah. Space.
Please leave us alone.
Yeah. Hopefully say that. This is bottom. Yeah. That one's drums. I think it might have been drums here. Where the drums is but it was vocals with song. Keyboard, that's basically the same. No.
Yeah, pretty much. So these two fit together. So depending on whether on that day, say the emphasis is on this, then maybe this person would play less. And these two also fit together. So they pretty much do a little dance, but they fit together. So in a way they're equal, let's say. But depending on who's doing more that day, then you might do that. Yeah, it's quite similar. Yeah, so I think the interesting thing with that is rather than having a music focus, and a lot of modern bands, it's more like, I thought of a cool riff and everybody follow me or something. it's more like we first of all serving people. And so the song leader is not so much like the song leader is bossing you around telling you what to do, but it's more like you're supporting them as they work to figure out how to serve the congregation. Yeah. So, no, that's really good.
I guess the next part of it is, this is if you've got a full band. What happens if you were to cut some of the instruments out? How would that affect?
So these we just take it for granted, but we cut in some of the instruments out. So say on that day there was no drummer.
Yeah, which happens fairly often.
Yeah.
How would you then reorganise that? Yeah. Why would you do that, Peggy?
Because guitar is, in a way, pretty similar to bass. The bass can play the bass line, the guitar can also imitate the bass and play the melody like higher part. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, the range.
And Sally, what were you going to say?
I forgot.
You said rhythm.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, so you're both right. I think it's really cool though because the guitar does have that rhythmic element. Not everybody plays the guitar rhythmic, not everybody can. Some people play electric guitar, which is more of this sort of area here, and I didn't have enough room to stick electric guitar, I would have stuck at the same point. But if you're going to play an acoustic guitar, they can set down and lay down the rhythm, and sometimes it'll be the song leader with the guitar too, driving the rhythm, and I think that's a really good place.
Yeah.
If you don't have drums.
That's right. So then, rather than focusing on say the fancy electric guitar stuff, maybe whoever it is, Julian, might hop over to his acoustic and just play some solid rhythm to carry that through. And then say you do have this, but you don't have that.
This one has things like that is something like that.
Why would you change it to that?
Keyboard can play bass, but can play as low as bass.
Yep, and you've still got the rhythm from
You
the
still got
drums.
the rhythm, yes.
So at least you've got the rhythm there.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's my music too.
Yeah. And then if you don't have those,
Same.
those.
This happens quite a lot too.
Just like today in extreme.
And who did what? How did you cover those things?
They kind of took turns. Like some of the songs, like it was Julian like guitar and Jeremy on the keys. So it was kind of like some songs Julian played more and some Jeremy did.
Yeah. So actually, a keyboard has rhythm too.
Yeah. And that might change from song to song, as you said.
Yeah. Sometimes it might be more appropriate to do it with the keyboard feel as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Very important to keep in mind, and ultimately the song leader usually decides the feel, and that usually decides who to really follow. Ultimately, though, you got to be following the song leader's rhythm, and you've got to be following the song leader's cues. Just grab a seat again.
Yep. Cool. But yeah, that gives you a good idea of the different roles you could play, the hats you can wear.
Yeah. So the first thing to do is to listen, really, to listen to every other instrument there. Sometimes even before you play, just take a step back and just to listen and to not play loud yourself. Sometimes you can be playing at the same time as listening to, but here's a good trick. I'll give these to you. They're earplugs. Now you might be wondering, what on earth are the use of earplugs? Well, let me tell you, almost all professional musicians actually practice with earplugs on. There's a couple of reasons. The first and main reason is to protect their hearing, because a professional musician is probably going to be playing their instrument several hours a day. Hopefully a professional musician is doing that. If they don't, then they don't have enough practice. So that protects their hearing, and in fact you can buy special earplugs that block out the particular frequency range that your instrument plays at. So what that means is you can protect your hearing in that range that you're most likely to damage it in. That's the first reason. The second reason is because it really helps them to concentrate on what they're playing and get them used to what it's like on the stage. Because when you're on the stage, you have all the other instruments there, they're all blasting away. How much of your own instrument can you really hear?
No.
You can't. It's really difficult to. The temptation is to say to the sound guy, please, amplify me up, make me louder than everyone else.
You hear this very often, right? And then suddenly, and me too, and me too. You
have this loudness wall coming out from your fallback until the microphone starts feeding back, and the guys who are singing are going, oh, you guys are all too loud. That's what we want to avoid. So, honestly, try practicing with earplugs every now and then, just so you get the idea of not hearing yourself. And it's a really cool thing to do. It's a really challenging thing to do. It means that you concentrate a lot more on your playing. And what that means is, when you're out there on the day, you'll be able to hear yourself better because you already know what it sounds like to not hear yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's a trick that I used to do quite a lot just to make sure I knew what I was doing. And it means that you can pretty much play with your eyes closed, or even if everybody else is playing, you can't hear yourself. At least you have an idea of what you'll sound like because you've had that practice with the earplugs on. The other really key thing to know is sometimes because you can't hear yourself, you have to rely on your vision to figure out what the beat is. You might be looking at the drummer, which is a little bit hard because of the way we set up our instruments is the keyboard's usually in front. But sometimes you might need to turn your head. Of course, you'll also be wanting to look at the song leader because sometimes the song leader will be going tapping with their foot, or sometimes they're going slow down, speed up. I've seen some song leaders do that. It's not a good look, and it's especially not a good look when the rest of the band aren't looking to see the song leader go, you guys are singing you guys are playing too fast, we can't sing that fast. So make sure you do look at the song leader, and make sure you listen to the song leader, make sure you listen to what the people are singing. Sometimes the song leader does get it wrong, and the song leader's trying to sing fast, but the congregation wants to sing slow. And I've actually had that happen several times, and you just have to try to play louder. And typically you follow the song leader, but there are certain circumstances where it may not be possible to do that.
But anyway, that's getting into a lot of details.
Yeah, sometimes the song leader will make a mistake completely and fluff it, and they have to jump back in. And it's your responsibility just to keep it going, but to also be following the song leader. Because sometimes when the song leader fluffs it, you still need to back them up. You still need to follow again what they are doing and what they're singing.
Or when the drummer skips a beat, like sometimes they might skip a beat and then stop playing, and you just got to power through it.
Yeah, and if you do make a mistake yourself, just start again. You're in year 8. You did year 8, so you know. Just keep going.
You can't go back to the beginning.
You can't stop and you can't start because it's game over. You've been in the band. And the other thing that you may not have, sound travels a lot slower than light, which means if you're waiting for the sound to travel 5 meters, sound travels about 343 meters per second. If you wait by just, say the song leader's singing, and you wait for that signal to reach you, you actually pretty much exceed the limit it takes to stay in time. Because a person can perceive about 15 milliseconds worth of delay. 15 milliseconds is about 5 minutes. So it's really important to look. Even the drummers has to look too. Otherwise you get a bit too much spread in your beat and rhythm. Okay, we're going to get to some really practical stuff really soon. But here are some key principles before we do that. Less is more. It's okay to play simple stuff. It's okay to stick in a small part of the keyboard. It's also okay to play a lot, but only when it's called for. So that's important. The second bit is to play in the gaps. What does that mean? Have you an idea what playing the gaps means?
Like if there's like a missing instrument, then
so that's in terms of, say, the range of the keyboard.
What about during the song? Like if somebody was sing, like if there's a song that you sing, where's the gaps?
oh, like when you don't sing.
Yeah, exactly right. So there's 2 sort of ways of looking at music. You've got the frequency, what note you're playing, and then the other one is what time you actually play it in. You have these tiny little gaps. They're literally 3rd beat of the bar, 4th beat of the bar.
Can you give a quick example of that?
The sort of
or
ideas
even with this song.
Yeah. So if I was going to go through the song that we're going to do today. You are my strength when I am weak. You are the treasure that I seek. You are my all in all. You as a precious jewel case I wasn't singing at the same time as playing. It's just, but that sort of fits in between what the people are singing. It's some of them do start at the same time. It stops at the same time as they start, basically, and it starts between where they play, where they sing. Something to listen for. The other key thing is to don't play the melody whenever you can avoid it. Usually you don't need to play the melody. Playing the melody makes the song harder. It's easier to not play the melody, so just don't play the melody. And I know that's what you already don't do, so that's a good thing. But sometimes you do need to play the melody, but only for little bits. But usually I don't play the melody. And of course you won't be able to hear yourself sometimes. Try not to ask for the fallback to be put up too high. But
just a sound desk person speaking.
But make sure you can hear yourself. Here's a trick. All these keyboards have what's called touch sensitivity, and I know you already know what that means. Is the softer you play, the softer it sounds. But what you might not know is that the harder you play, sorry, it's a bit higher, you have what's called more attack. Okay, you've got attack, you've got hold, and then you've got the area where you just sort of fade through. So when you play soft, what happens is your attack is less. And that's what you sort of get. When you play loud, you get a lot more attack. What that means is it becomes a lot more rhythmic. And actually, these pianos have what's called multiple layers. The louder you play...
That is a very technical guy.
The louder you play, the different layers it uses. There's usually 7 or so different layers. So it actually uses a different instrument. Because when you play a piano, you're hitting the hammer louder and louder and louder. It actually changes the way the string vibrates, and you get that more of an attack. The reason why I want to say this is a lot of the times people, especially keyboardists, I guess, when they're playing, they might play really soft. They're playing in this sort of range here, and then they can't hear themselves because they're pretty much always fixed in this sort of area. They're not using the rhythmic part of it. But if you play nice and loud, and especially if you play rhythmically, and you're really, really firm with your playing, you will be louder just because of the way you play. So something just to remember to try out when you do a bit of practice just afterwards. Just try playing loud, play firm, and the sound desk guy will really appreciate that.
And be consistent as well. Like sometimes people chicken out. Either they chicken out or some really confident players like overcompensate. They're like, I can't hear myself bang, bang, bang,
yeah,
bang.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like
you
sometimes in the band you can't hear yourself. You tend to hit them really hard. Yeah. And that's why you tend to overdo.
Yeah, I usually find it's the opposite for a lot of people, because if you don't have the confidence, you tend to play softer. If you play too loud, the sound guy can turn you down. Right? But if you play too soft, the sound guy's just got to keep amping you up. It reaches a limit where you become...
So I guess when you start out, even if you're not that confident, I think one thing to practice is giving a bit more. Whereas if your name is Jason Yip, then maybe you play more quietly. No.
Yeah, because basically it's this part here, which means you'll get swamped by all the other instruments.
Yeah.
If you're always playing up here, everyone else is always going to be louder than you. But if you continue, you have your little peaks every now and
then,
in the rhythm. You'll make that sound.
A difference. You'll play your part, I think. Like, I mean, the whole playing loudly thing, it's not so much because everybody has to play a certain way, but it's more that you're a part of the band, you want to make your contribution. Yeah.
Okay, and the last one I've got is to pick a small range on the keyboard and stick with it. You've got a lot of instruments, as I was showing you before, just to stick with that sort of... In fact, when I'm playing with my right hand here, I won't be playing as loud on my left hand, sorry. I won't be playing so loud on my left hand as I will be playing on my right hand. So in fact, I can play really soft with my left hand. And the reason why is, anybody got an idea why I would play softer with my left hand?
Otherwise you sound too loud.
Because I would clash with...
Clash with the bass.
I could be clashing with the instruments down in this area here. Usually it's the bass. But why do I actually do play with my left hand? And the reason is because the left hand usually is able to keep time. So if I didn't play with my left hand at all, I might lose time, I might lose the rhythm.
Yeah.
So I do try to play with my left hand. That's my own personal style. You might have a different style. You might be able to do it all with one hand.
You might be very good at keeping time.
Yeah, you might be. But I would still recommend that you do play the left hand. Why? Why would I do, even if you can keep time completely your right hand, is there a... What if the bass player stuffs up, forgets his line, forgets where he is? What about if his page blows off into the distance? You've still got your hand in the right place. You compensate for it. You're in there. You're backing him up. You're backing every other team member up if something goes wrong. And that's what the whole team does. If you fluff up, which I always fluff up my bass hand, it's okay. I'm playing really, really softly. The bass guy's got it. It's no problem. If I fluff up my right hand, it's okay. I've got a guitarist. And if I totally fluff up completely, and if everybody fluffs up, that's fine. The singers are singing loud, and the congregation's singing loud. It's not a problem. So don't worry about making mistakes. Just be always ready to step in, and generally play softly with your left hand and your right hand if you can. All right. Now down to the song. You Are My All in All. Why did I pick this song? The reason why I picked this song is because of two reasons. The first reason is because it has a lot of the most important chords. What are the most important chords in a key?
Tonic, subdominant, dominant. And dominant, yeah.
Yes.
1, 4, 5.
You've done your musicianship.
Great piano people.
That's great.
Excellent.
Okay. Tonic, subdominant, dominant. 1, 4, 5. Now those come in the chorus. You notice the chorus? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you get yours in front of you? Yeah.
So it goes C, G, F, and C. So we were playing in C major. Oh, did you guys pick my deliberate error?
Yes, that's the G major. I was like,
okay,
F major. Why am I playing in G?
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
So C
Was that
is...
really a deliberate error?
No, it wasn't.
Just checking. No.
I was thinking in my head G, but I typed F. I don't know why.
I was thinking, how come it's starting in G? I was like, C, D, E, F. How perfect. I was like,
Wait a minute. Yeah.
So in C major it's C, G, and F. 1, 5, and 4.
Yep.
D major it's D, A, and G.
Yep.
And in E major it's E, B, and A.
Yep.
And G major is G, D, and C. Actually, I picked those C, D, E, and G because they're the most common keys that you will encounter when you're doing praise and worship music. I know other sorts of music. You do classical, you've got these E flats and B flats and F
Quite a
sharp
few B
major.
flats these days.
And you might get a couple of B flats and might get a couple of E flats, but they're close enough to E and B that you can usually work them out as you go along. But I'll give you the major, the 4 major ones. Okay, so 1, 4, 5. You know about that. How about walk downs? Do you know what a walk down is?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. If you've done any sort of jazz sort of stuff, or I guess if you've studied music, you would know what a walk down is, but you may not know the formal term because... So when you learn music, you learn scales. That's how you practice.
Yeah.
When you play in a band, you don't learn scales anymore. You don't learn arpeggios anymore. You learn walk downs. If you practice your walk downs in every key, you will pretty much do quite a lot of different songs. I'll give you an example. Let's have a look through this old stuff. Okay. Let's have a look. Here we go. Let's do it in D major for a change. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to Him belong, they are weak but He is strong. Or, create in me a clean heart, oh God, and renew a right spirit you spun the stars into motion. You know that one either?
Sounds
No, vaguely.
I know the tune.
You know everything that has breath? Everything that has breath, praise the Lord. Let everything, or maybe this one. As the deep has fallen, the waters of my soul longs after you.
Yeah. It's from Canto service.
It is. Or Jesus, God's righteousness reveals. You know that one too? Okay.
So you get the idea.
They
There's
were-
quite a lot of songs just with these time progressions.
They were all walk downs. If you knew the walk down in that particular key, then you could transpose to the next key because it's just another walk down. So you go, Jesus, God's righteousness revealed. Or you can go, Jesus, God's righteousness. But that happens because the song leader will pick the key. Sometimes they will pick a key that's different to what you're used to playing.
Yeah.
So it's important to be able to play in different keys, and one of the best ways of learning how to play any sort of random song is to learn your walk downs. A walk.
So what is the walk down composed of?
Yeah.
So
I'll give you these notes now
Okay.
because it's probably a good idea if we just
So you can see it.
so you can see it.
Yeah.
It's on page 5.
Yeah.
Page 5.
Yeah.
I've done them I've written them down in terms of overchords, like slash chords. You might not always see them in terms of slash
You know what
chords.
they are, yeah?
You know how to read those sort of chords?
Is
Like one?
Is it or
Like
C
bass-
or B?
No.
No, it's not or.
It's the bass note.
Oh,
The one at the
okay.
second part's the bass note.
Okay.
So normally in the C you play C, but then here you play B on the
The
left
B.
hand. But
Okay.
So what you notice that the right hand is playing a 1, a 4, or a 5. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Okay, now what's different is the bass hand just walks down. So you do a scale with your left hand, and you do a 1, 4, or 5 with your right hand. Which do you do where you just give it a go? And if it sounds wrong, then it's wrong. If it sounds right, then it's right. If it sounds cool and jazzy, then you know you've really got it right. It's as easy as that. That's a walk down. So keys, know your 1, 4, 5 in the song that you're playing, because that will determine what you do with your right hand. Second bit is learn your walk downs in every key that you normally will get worship songs in, and you should be able to transpose a lot easier. Very tricky.